Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is 2 Moms, No Fluff.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 2 Moms, No Fluff, the podcast in which we discuss the uncensored truth about raising kids with disabilities. My name is Iris Miller, and I'm here with my podcast partner, Alma Schneider. Hello, Alma.
Hello, Iris.
You want to introduce our topic and our guest?
Yes, I would absolutely love to introduce our wonderful guest who has honored us with her presence here today to be interviewed, my friend and excellent disability advocate and author, Mei Li. Welcome,
Hi.
Mei.
Thank
She's going to be
you.
talking about all sorts of wonderful things. But to get started, Mei, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and your connection to disability.
Well, I'm a Chinese American from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn in heart always. Yay! And even though I moved to Jersey, Brooklyn is always going to be home for us. I'm also a language arts teacher in the city, and I have a little person who's 6 years old, and he is autistic and G-tube dependent.
Okay, so that definitely gives you a connection to disability in many ways.
Mei, do you want to maybe describe your son a little bit more for our benefit, so we kind of know your family a little bit better, and also maybe explain how his disability affects your family?
So it was very hard to have Edward, my baby. I've always wanted a baby since I was little, but it was really difficult to even have a child. And I think people don't talk about that sometimes. He's like, I've had 4 pregnancies and he's the only one. Yeah. And I think my husband wanted a child, but he didn't want a child like I wanted a child. So when we had him, it was a very difficult pregnancy, and he was IUGR, growth restricted in the womb. And so he was born a micropreemie. And I remember going to the gyno and he was like, I delivered 3-pound babies before. And we're like, no. We're looking like 1 pound at most, and he came in at barely a pound, at right under a pound, size of a Poland Spring bottle. If you think about it, a little bit smaller. And it was just amazing that he made it, And so from the get-go, we knew we were in for like this long journey. He was in the NICU for a very long time. He came home on oxygen support, with a concentrator in the house. And, we lived in Brooklyn. So we lived in like a 500 square foot apartment with 1 bedroom. And this concentrator took up like half the apartment, and it heated up everything. So
I'm sorry, what is a concentrator? I don't know.
It's like an oxygen machine.
Okay.
So it's 24-hour oxygen, and he was on it. And then when we wanted to go out, we had to carry this portable tank.
Wow.
We're so like, this tells you like how ignorant we were, is like when we took him home from the hospital, he was on this portable oxygen tank. And like in the Chinese culture, like if you're coming out of prison or the hospital or something, you kind of like burn incense to like get rid of all that bad luck. And you kind of like walk over the fire. So I'm carrying this baby and an oxygen tank, and I did not think anything of it. And I walked right past the burning fire. And my husband was like, you just walked through fire with an oxygen tank and a baby. And it just tells you like we just didn't know what we were doing.
Don't know what you don't know. If nobody told you.
No, and it's just, from there on, he was on, we luckily he got stronger. We're no longer oxygen dependent, but we didn't care. We took that oxygen tank. We went to the park. We went to the playground. We're like, here's my baby. I'm so proud he's alive. Um, and because of his aspirations with feeding, with eating, he would get silent aspirations, and we didn't know why, because he wasn't showing any signs that he couldn't take food. So we had to do a lot of studies, and then he got on the G tube. So it's been 6 years on the G tube, and it was really difficult, really. He was vomiting like 30 something times a day. We were so smart, we took the Chinese takeout trays and we just like walk around the house, like waiting for him. And it was not just like a little burp, it was like a projectile vomiting. So like lots of cleanup through the house. And it was just a lot. But that's the medical aspect of it, right? And to be honest, I think that was the easy part. I think once we discovered the autism, we were diagnosed with the autism, I think that was very emotional for us. And I think for us, the medical was almost like trying to survive, right? And when you're living in that survival mode, you don't think about anything else. You don't think about tomorrow. You don't think about the future. You think about the next minute. So when the autism diagnosis came, I think we had like a moment of like, okay, what do we do? What is it? What's going on? And but then once that settled, it just became this, like, can we handle this? It was very scary because now it's not just a medical thing. We had to think about the future now, and it's a different life. It's a different idea of what we thought life would be. There's a possibility for tomorrow now, and that possibility involves autism. And I think that hit my husband a lot, like it hit him pretty hard because I think he could have handled knowing that my son, our kid, has medical needs, right? But it was difficult for him to understand that, like, neurologically, he will be different. And society has a different perspective about that versus medical needs, So it was tough. My husband is, and I asked permission before I'm sharing this. My husband is diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and it's difficult, and I had to learn that, and that was very difficult. But through it all, I have to say, I am so blessed. We are so blessed, right? We have the community with Alma, with the Friday group. Like, that's such a support, and I don't think a lot of people have that for adults and parents. But my parents are very supportive. I think they saw the whole pregnancy process, and my dad is cute too. My dad's very quiet. And we're all afraid of him, but he doesn't do anything. But we're just like afraid of him because he exists. I don't know. He like grunts and everybody like shivers, like it's weird. But my mom's the one who like makes decisions for everything. But we just like, for some reason, he's just this guy that, that we gotta pay attention if he grunts. So, but he was like the sweetest. Like, he says the most encouraging, sweetest things, and I did not expect it from him. And he was like, this baby is going to be fine, and he's like, when the baby came at 6.5 months, he was like, oh, it's better that it's out of your womb. Now he has a chance of survival. The doctors will save him, like, it was just surprising.
It's amazing how some people just show up who
Yeah.
in a different way than you anticipated. And that's really beautiful. And that probably really strengthened you. I mean, it sounds like you've been through so much. I know you, and I did not know about the miscarriages or the infertility. I don't know how you describe it, but that's a lot. And that is something that people don't talk about, and that is another layer. So it sounds like they were so happy that you had a baby, and that's hopefully that is what helped with your resiliency.
No, that's I read so I follow a group on Facebook, and like one of the comments was like, privilege. I'm privileged to have this support of my
Mhm.
family who, my dad had like a fifth grade education and my mom probably had barely that. So, and we're from a village in China, and
Mhm.
it's just amazing how sincere and good, these humans are in my life. And my sisters too. I have four sisters.
Uh-huh.
I know it's crazy. I'm the middle child, so I like had to entertain everybody. But
Me too.
listen, we're like the best, the middle child.
And I don't know if everybody knows this. You probably don't. May and I went to the same high school, we found out. And she met her husband in our high school,
Yeah.
which
That's
is pretty
incredible.
exciting. So it sounds like you have had this long relationship with your husband. You grew up with your husband in essence. So hopefully that provided, some kind of a foundation for you to work to jump off of when all of this came to be.
Yeah.
But it
He's pretty
sounds like,
amazing.
yeah, it sounds like you really put it, into perspective. Everything's relative. Everything's relative. But you mentioned about your Chinese background, and I know Chinese New Year is approaching. And are there inclusive? Like, are you able to be inclusive with your? It sounds like you're connected to your Chinese background. Do you celebrate Chinese New Year with him in an inclusive way, or is that something that's part of the Chinese culture to be inclusive in these
I'm
kinds
gonna
of
be
social?
honest, Chinese New Year is super loud. Like everything is noise, like we have a New Year reunion, a dinner right
Mhm.
before like New Year's Eve, so to speak. January
Uh-huh.
22nd is the New Year.
Okay.
So and that's a Sunday this year, right? And so Saturday, we're planning to reunite the whole family wherever we are. We need to come together.
Mhm.
And we're pretty strong in terms of like the sibling. Usually it's the men's house, right? But, most of our husbands are okay with us all coming to the women's house. So what all at my mom's, that's the plan, to have a reunion dinner. And it's when I was a kid, I remember it was just like massive noise,
Oh,
like everybody's laughing and sometimes they're just having a conversation, but it sounds like they're arguing, and but it's the
sounds
excitement.
familiar.
Let me tell you, the Jewish family, and I feel like the Chinese family, so they're so similar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
So
yeah, we are going to come together and we have a big meal. We do everything pretty much cleaning together. That's why there's so much noise, but it brings the young and the old together, and it's called a reunion dinner because everybody, this is the end of the year, and we kind of like reunite and close the year together because family is utmost important.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much. But in terms of inclusivity and like, you know, I don't know if it calls for it, but the second day of the first day of the new year, right? Like on Sunday, the 22nd, is supposed to be a quiet day.
Oh, okay.
So you get all this ruckus the night before, like we play cards and all candy and whatnot. But the day after is kind of like you're resetting.
Mhm.
You're starting the new year. You don't wash your hair.
Oh.
No, because it's a new year and you just came in the new year with all new clothes, clean haircut and
Hmm.
washed, hopefully bathed the day before. So the second day, like the first day of the new year, is like all the good stuff just came. So you want to hold on to that. You don't want to wash it away. You don't want to sweep it away. You want to keep it. So it's a quiet day, it's a vegetarian day. We ate all this meat yesterday and drinks and whatnot. But on the first day of the new year, you're supposed to be kind of like humble and quiet. So I think that shift might be good for my son. He'll have the noise and rowdiness, and then he'll have the quiet the next day.
May, I want to ask you, just because you have the privilege, as we said, like of growing up in American culture, but being originally from the Chinese culture, Can you tell us a little bit about how those two cultures compare, maybe in terms of the relationship or approaches, the attitudes towards people with disabilities, good and bad? Like, what do you feel about those?
Mm, I don't really feel like culturally, you know what, the Chinese culture tends to be quiet about their issues, right? Like anything that they have that is not normal, is silenced. So if,
She
you
put
know,
quotes up there for those of you not watching. She put air quotes for normal.
yeah, so like, it's not, um, you don't kind of like tell people about your business, so to speak, right? So my son, I think for the, they knew that he had medical needs, but I think the autism, my mom kind of like held it in a little bit, and she didn't really want to talk about it, and she didn't want to educate. But my mom is good because she's, when she retired, the Department of Aging offered like computer lessons for people and stuff like that in the city, and she took advantage of all that. She's like tech savvy, so she knows how to like search online and go on her WhatsApp and look for information and stuff. And she she researched information about her grandson. It's a diagnosis, and she kind of like understands it. And she sometimes, when my dad says something, um, I don't want to use the word ignorant, but like when he says something that is not appropriate, right? Then she would tell him like, oh, because she kind of raised him, she was with the babysitter, so she knew exactly what he can and cannot and what's difficult for him and so forth. And so she's like his advocate, to all the family members. So she kind of fights for that. But I feel like that's really my mom. I don't know if like culturally everybody does this in the Chinese tradition, because I was a little disappointed when we had the parade for the special needs parade.
Oh, the
And there were,
Disability Pride Parade for
yeah, and
Mothers.
there was not a lot of Asian representation, right? Like, and I'm like, I know there are children or adults, who are Asian and
Yeah.
who have a disability. Where are
Hmm.
you? Like, they
Yeah.
hide themselves and they're not
Hmm.
comfortable. And maybe because of the middle child upraising, like I'm pretty loud, and and I believe, and also as an educator, I
Hmm.
believe, you will never be seen unless
Hmm.
you're visible,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the more that we are invisible, the more likely we will continue to not be understood or accepted or
Yeah.
welcomed, you know.
That's
Yeah.
so
And
important,
it's,
what you just said.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very important. And, I see you as such a strong advocate that, you're not just a Chinese American, you're also, you're an educator, as you mentioned, and you're a middle child. You have all these other facets that, bring all these wonderful skills and characteristics. So, um, on that note, I would like to talk about a wonderful piece of advocacy that I got to personally witness. That you have written a book, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the book that you created.
So last year, it was very difficult for us because I think that's when, we kind of confronted my husband's depression.
Hmm.
And part of it is because we kind of like finally entered in the realm of independence, if that makes sense. Because we've been living with my mom and she's
Oh,
supporting us and helping us, and it's the first time we're living, it's not with we lived together, just the two of us before our
hmm,
son, but once we had our son, we had my mom's support, and the family and everything.
hmm,
But then we moved, and it was time for us to be independent. And I think it was very scary for my husband,
hmm,
to kind of like start this venture together on our own,
hmm,
in a new place. And I think the depression was building prior, since
hmm,
since our first loss of the baby,
hmm,
like 7 years ago, and no one really addressed it,
hmm,
and and it was really tough then.
hmm,
But that's where the book came in. So I just want to like premise that, because um, the the book was a place for us, for me, because when you're a supporter of somebody who's depressed, you have needs too. And it's very difficult to be that person. So anyway, there's so many elements that came into this, but primarily it was nearing Chinese New Year last year in like December, and I was researching, and I was kind of upset that I couldn't find one single story that I can get from the library that does not talk about what I eat and what I do on New Year's Day. So I was kind of annoyed. I'm like, there's no figurative language, there's no plot development. I'm an English teacher. I want to teach literary elements, plot development, character analysis through Lunar New Year aspect, right? So I tasked a friend of mine and my husband to compose a short story of no more than 300 words because it's like 1 day lesson. That's what I wanted to do. And they all wrote theirs, right? One person wrote like a whole chapter book. I was like, you're useless for me. I can't use this book and it's incomplete, but it was a great book and I hope she finished. And then my husband wrote it, but I had to like kick his butt to get it finished. So I finished mine, but I did mine in like 35 minutes on the train ride home. And it just poured into me, you know, the story, the plot, everything because of my son, right? I started with the character of a tiger and I'm like, what problem would it have and so forth. And I'm like, it's funny because your world becomes your child, and everything that he needs and everything that you learned about him, that's your new world, right? And so his big thing is about speech, his communication, he's nonverbal, but he's so strong-willed. And so my little tiger story is about the little tiger finding, power within to be able to communicate, but in his own way, So, and I want people to see that, so the story ends with the little tiger finding his own hello to greet people, and he growls. And everybody in his community growls back in greeting. So they kind of like accept him, and that's like the hidden symbolism in the story, which I feel like as a language teacher, I can bring in to talk about symbolism in a story as well. So that's where the story came from and how we started. But we're all illustrators of the story. And I didn't want to publish the book until one day I was hanging out with my son and it was just me and him, and I wanted him to practice OT, because you're always trying to do something, right? And he doesn't want to play with me, like he wants to do his thing. So I was like, come on, let's draw a picture, let's try something. So he picked up these like dot markers and he just like stamp. And I was like, oh gosh, this is the scene of my book, and it was just like so appropriate. I took his dots of purple and green and I made the river, the magical river in my story. And then I was like, John, join the story. And like, so it became like a 3-person family project. And this year is similar concept, but this year is going to be the rabbit. And it's going to be the rabbit's first stand. So I'm including, so last year Edward was able to do dots, right? This year he wrote numbers. Are you celebrating with me? Yes, you are, right?
That's amazing.
I know. So I used some of his writing. I mean, like it looks like chicken scratch, but you can tell it's a 9 and it's an 8, whatever. So, and I'm just like psyched, so I'm including it in the story. I pushed John is also creating character and I'm doing the layout and everything. So it's like a family project. So that's where we are.
You did publish it. So let's rewind a second. You did publish the first one.
Yes.
Correct. And we definitely want to know, at the end, I want to know where everyone can purchase this book. But it's a really beautiful book. I have a copy of it and it's got wonderful illustrations. And, you mentioned how, he growls and everyone growls back. It's not just that they're accepting him, they're engaging with him. And he's a part of the whole picture, which, so it's so beautiful to hear that his dots became a part of the book. He's a part of the whole project, just like in the book. He's a member. He's not just being, tolerated or accepted.
Yeah.
Sorry?
it also kind of the principle that I like most about communication is that we don't need to only teach our children how to communicate with everybody else. It's everybody else needs to learn how to communicate with our children. And the fact that in the story you managed to teach everybody else in the village to growl back, to use his language to communicate with him is the most wonderful thing, in my opinion. And I
Yeah.
want to, maybe if it's okay with you, Alma, skip a question just as we're talking about community here.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask you, May, how do you feel about, what can the community do to change, to improve, to be more inclusive of your son and in general for people with disabilities?
I think ask questions, right? Like ask. Um, I'm just going to give a shout out to Nancy Liu. She's a beautiful human, and she always wants to. She's in the Eats group, but she has a group to kind of bring community together. And she's from day one has asked me, how can I make this eating club inclusive to include your son into this? She asked me, and not a lot of people ask that question. Like how, like, don't presume, because if you met one autistic child, one child with a G tube, that's how they might function and their needs are. But my kid is different. We have other difficulties and other um, uh, abilities, and so be aware of that. Just ask a question, and that's what I love about like my community, right? Everybody asks questions, even if they're kind of scared or they're not comfortable or they don't know how to execute, right? But the first initial thing I think is just showing me that you care about my son's needs and my needs, actually, because we're a unit, right? Like, because in order for me to support him, I need to be addressed also. So to know that, we're planning a trip recently, and my friends were like, "Oh, we want to go away and do all these things." So I was like, "What does Edward need to kind of be comfortable?" And I was like, "I need a pool." I need a pool and I need a playground, right? Preferably trampoline. I'll bring that myself. But like, just asking that question and then being open to it, and then also comes back from me too, not just the person. I feel like it's a parallel relationship always. I can't expect other people to stop their lives to accommodate mine, because so it's important for me to not get upset if I'm not included. It's important for me to understand, like, they have children, they have needs also. And I need to respect those needs, and I need to ask their questions of how we can both, enjoy the moment, enjoy the space together.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
you mentioned Nancy. Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's the second time I interfere in the middle of a sentence. Go ahead, Alma.
Oh, I was just going to say that Nancy, yes, has this wonderful group. And there's another group in our town, as there is elsewhere, the Asian American Pacific Alliance, Pacific Islanders group. And I know that you've been involved in that group, and you helped, them come to the parade and represent, or suggested that they attend. And I'm wondering how. I know that there's been a lot of anti-Asian sentiment because of COVID, and I'm just thinking about all the layers of challenges, and if that has been something that has added an extra layer to your already sometimes challenging life with your son, with your family, having to do with disability.
You know, so I'm from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and we're heavily, and I think one of the news reports was that there was an elderly lady, she's just minding her business, walking down the block, and someone threw like some sort of like fire thing, and it lit her shirt on fire. It's crazy, and that was like literally 2 blocks around the corner from my sister's house.
Wow.
And it just, it's funny because some of these things happen and you think about who's most important to you, right? I didn't care about my sister. All I cared about was my mother.
Oh,
And I
she's
was
more
like,
vulnerable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness. I was just so livid, and it's just so close to home and nothing. I feel like sometimes when we read the news, it's like so distant and you don't
Mm-hmm.
think about it. But once it's like around the corner,
Yeah.
right, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And you take it more personal.
Mm-hmm.
So, we try to tell my mom to like, don't go out as often. And the fear, it's just a
Yeah.
fear factor, and just being cautious and things like that. Mom didn't care. She was like, I'm going on the bus. I'm going to have tea with my friends. I got to go dancing. She's so busy. So, and maybe that's why I was worried about her because she's like a teenager and she
Yeah.
forgot she's like 60 something, 70 years old. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's clearly where you get your power from, or at least part of it from your
I,
amazing mom, sounds like. But I
yeah.
love the fact that, you're not letting, I really respect you because you don't sit at home and just worry about yourself. You are getting active and advocating for other issues in your life. And that's, you're not just a mom of a kid with a disability, you have a life and you want to advocate for other things as well. So our hats are tipped to you for the advocacy work that you do because it's very important. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, that whatever I'm going to botch this, and injustice anywhere is an injustice to all of us. And it's true. It's true. We all have to be there for each other in all different kinds of ways. I guess Iris, you want to say
I
something? I
wanted
just
to ask you kind of as you're kind of mentioning being worried about your mother and the effects of the negative vibes in our society. I want to move back to the Chinese New Year's and ask you, what are you wishing for yourself, for your family, for your child for the new year?
Um, we usually say phrases in Chinese, like four character phrases, and it's always positive. So like I'll call my dad and I'll be like, good health to you, or it's very generic, but like it's a popular thing to do. So I guess good health. And
Mhm.
there's a phrase about, may all your dreams come true for the new year, and then we can revisit it at the reunion dinner to make sure that it did. And if it didn't, we'll laugh about it.
Great.
That's so nice.
And what, going back to disability, I guess, and this is what we like to ask people, what would you tell parents who are just getting a diagnosis? Like if you could go back to your younger self when all of these things happened, what is there something that stands out that gave you that you wish you had known back in the beginning
Um,
that you'd like to share with other people to kind of ease their pain or suffering or
I think
feelings?
I think, people say things like, oh, this is your child, you love it no matter what, and stuff like that. I'm just going to say it's okay to grieve.
Hmm.
It's okay to say, this is not what I envisioned.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to go on vacation before they're two, so we can take advantage of the free flights for 2-year-olds. Like I wanted to do all that stuff, and I want to play, I also wanted a girl, but the, just grieve for what you thought your
Hmm.
tomorrow was going to be. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of people just keep shoving down my husband's throat that, oh, be grateful. This is
Yes.
your child. Love him. Da 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 da. There's no question that my husband loves my child, right? Like, I think he loves my child more than I do. He was there from day one. I had the preeclampsia. I was out for like 3 days. My husband was by himself in the NICU watching this 440-gram who lost weight after
Wow.
birth. He was like 300 something grams. And he was alone in
Yeah.
the NICU, for at least 2 days. And I was in denial when I became lucid again. And honestly, I didn't cry until like day 4.
Mhm.
So for the first time. So it's just, I think when you hold those emotions, and I think grieving is important, knowing that and letting that go. Once you go through that process and then you get angry at life and then you can like accept it and
Mhm.
embrace it. And I
Mhm.
think my husband is in a good place where he's in the kind of like middle of all three ground of like grieving, acceptance, and anger at the same time right now. And I think that's healing, and when he wasn't addressing all these emotions, we felt it.
Yeah.
Edward felt it. I felt it. Like it was very exhausting, so let those emotions occur and accept it.
Yeah. And everybody, you're making a good point that everybody comes to that, at their own pace. Like there's no set time, to do this. It's important, to get help immediately if you're, really struggling, but some things come out later, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's natural depending on who the person is, what they've been through in their life, and there's no guidebook to grieving and getting through it. It's really personal. So, I commend you, we both do, I'm sure, for being there for your husband. It's a lot, to be there to understand it and to work with him. It sounds like, it's not perfect, but you're working to make the family, function better and be as happy as they can be. And you're acknowledging all the steps that's going to take. Like you have to grieve. It's, we talk about that all the time, how if you don't grieve, it will come out in myriad ways. And it's so important to do that. And I also want to point out something that you mentioned about the that it just reminded me of a lot of people who have experienced infertility, or miscarriages, or stillborns, what have you, when they have a baby that has a disability, or even a neurotypical baby who's challenging. People say, "Whoa, we'll just be grateful that you have a baby." You know what? It's still hard, even having a baby. It's not. That doesn't eliminate all the grieving, the need for grieving, or feeling the pain and the suffering just because you didn't have a baby at all before. And so that's something that I know for a lot of people, that can be extra painful for people to feel like I should just be grateful that I have a baby because I tried for so long and it didn't happen, no matter what this baby is like. And that's not reality. And a lot of people don't acknowledge it. And a lot of people go out of their way to say, well, be grateful that you have a baby.
I am grateful, right?
Yes,
but at the same time, it's so hard.
Exactly. It dismisses it. It doesn't acknowledge your process. So I just wanted to add that because, I hear a lot about that.
That's like they say, oh, at least you have services. Oh, wonderful, these
Exactly.
therapists that you have, and oh, look how far he come. I was like, that's nice. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And sometimes, and it depends on my mood. I feel like one day I'm like, oh, I embrace this. Thank you. I feel the same way, right? And another day, and I'm gonna be like, just over there, like it's just
quiet. I don't need to hear it. and that's all acceptable too. So big question. Where can we buy your book?
Amazon.
I definitely want to get number 2.
Yes, it's going to be, I'm very impatient. So there are 12 animals in the zodiac, right? And I already spoke to John. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do 12. It seems like a lot, and this is my personality. Like I get all passionate about something, but Amazon will have it. We're book 2 with the rabbit is coming out, and I'm dedicating the book to my favorite nephew. Oh, I said that out loud. I have 2 nephews. I shouldn't say that.
Oh. One of the 2 favorites.
Well, they won't know. Yeah, they do. Okay, so it's pretty obvious. He's a rabbit, and I adore him. He's my first baby. So I hope that I hope he finds his dreams this year, because I'm actually hoping he'll get married so I can go to a party.
What's the name of the book? What's the name of the first book? And what's
Rabbit? So this one's called Rabbit's First Stand.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be all like relationship, and it's going to have all the themes throughout all the series. It's going to be about, related to, and it's going to be about Rabbit standing up for, herself, but to someone who's bigger but considered a friend, and those are the tough conversations you have, right? And it kind of comes back to kind of, our disability world, where sometimes it's hard to stand up to your friend and say, no, don't do this, and you'll be surprised when you do, because your friends will be there. Your friends will understand, and your friends will help you, and they will enjoy this new future with you, you know? And so that's kind of like the message, is to like, you know, you're small, you might feel you're small in this world, but it's okay to have these strong emotions and strong beliefs, and you need to voice them, because you'll be surprised how society, we keep thinking society doesn't support us sometimes, right? Because we're so stressed and like there's so much against us. But through this community, you know, with the Friday group and like just support, I found the world is beautiful. There are so many more beautiful, I think one of the episodes you guys talked about, right? Like one of the journeys, you encounter so many important people who support you, and you find that the world is like, wow, there's so many nice people in this world, and they will break a leg to help you. And you're like, I don't even know you. You're just part of this group, right? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's I believe that's our Silver Linings episode, which I personally think is my favorite, because it's very meaningful.
I think it's like one of your first ones.
Yeah, I think so, right, Iris?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. May, I want to tell you that I didn't meet you before, so today was my first interaction and introduction to your life, and I'm so grateful that I got to be in this interview, because I learned so much from you today. You're able to see the different layers of so many situations and see the positive in very, very difficult times. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and being out there for people to see, learn, and know, so they can change their approaches, and our world can hopefully become a better place. And I really thank you for taking the time to be here today. Before we end, is there anything else that you want to say that we didn't ask you and you want to share with our listeners?
No, but thank you for having me. You know, I'm a talker, so I love to chat.
And you have that awesome New York accent that just makes me filled with joy.
That's because you miss New York.
I miss New York, but I love hearing the New York accent. All right, well, thank you so much, May, and I'll see you on Friday, hopefully, at the Friday group.
That's tough, but good to see you here, at least.
Yes.
All right, take care.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We would put the links for May's book on our podcast, on both, I think, the description and, of course, on our Facebook group. If you guys have questions for May, please use our Facebook group to interact with May, or you can ask questions through our website, Two Moms No Fluff. And we appreciate everybody for joining us today, especially Mei Li for sharing her story. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.